want to point out that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I want to hope gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 475th edition of Energy Week.
475 already.
That's right. Time flies when you're having fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's with me, George Harvey, and the astonishing Tom Fennell.
In the flesh.
Tom is the only real philanthropist I know, I think. Tom actually helps people as opposed to, the Koch brothers who talk about being philanthropists for Wikipedia, and they give money to the opera which they attend. And actually, maybe they are philanthropists.
Well,
maybe
they give a lot of money to political causes that serve their purpose.
That's
a lot of money.
Yeah, I know. Okay. The stuff that we're talking about today being the 9th of June will be from my blog, geoharvey.com, geoharvey.com. Starting on the 2nd of June, a week ago today, you can go to the blog or you can go, let's see if I get this right, okay? Down there, I got it right. There, if you go down, scroll down on the page, on the screen that you're looking at, while you are watching this, you can find a file that you can download, and you can also you can find a link
to that file.
Yeah, well, there's a link to the blog that we use for doing the show, and there's actually a file that they can open, which is the stuff that's there. So Well,
there's a reason for that.
Yes, there's a reason for that.
I'll say that now. Some of these things are well worth reading.
Yeah.
And I'll try and call your attention to that, because you may want to follow up on these.
Yep.
Like I say, some of them are very well worth reading.
Yep. And regardless of how you get there, the link to the blog that Tom and I used to set this up, or the file, there are links that you can use to get to the articles that we're talking about. So, should we just go?
Yeah, let's start.
Okay,
First
on
one. This
Thursday,
is Energy Week number 475.
Thursday, June 2nd is where we're starting.
That was last Thursday.
That was last Thursday, and you could probably put up a picture, which I have just put up behind us. That is a picture of a, whoops, wrong picture. There we go.
There we go.
Freewire charging station.
Looks like a gas pump.
It does sort of, doesn't it? This is from Clean Technica, and you have a title for it.
It's called Freewire Shows Us How to Solve Charging Challenges in Rural America. And Freewire is the name of the company. And by the way, I'll mention there's a 2-minute how-to video in this.
Yeah. The charging station here, well, let me read the synopsis. A company called Freewire Technologies looks like they have a pretty good solution to something that keeps rural charging stations from happening in the United States. Freewire integrates battery storage directly into the station and plan on using a lot less continuous power. Now, the problem here, of course, is that in rural America, there isn't a lot of power in the power lines the way that you can get it in urban areas.
Especially in Vermont.
Yeah.
I mean, you buy a nice house out in the country without power, and it costs you more for the power than it costs you for the house.
There are a lot of people who put in off-grid systems. Yeah. Nancy Ray Mallory, who's the editor of Green Energy Times, when she built her house, I think it was about 15 years ago, even with the high price of solar at that time, she had solar and batteries put in because it was cheaper than getting in grid power. And she has a system that operates a refrigerator and you go down the list. Yes, she's got everything she needs.
Well, one of the problems here is if you're using the grid, they're going to try and charge you commercial rates. Okay, and the commercial rates include demand charges, and these can add up. These can be pretty expensive.
Demand charges are based on the highest.
How much power you've drawn at the highest rate over a whole month.
Yeah. So you're not
energy,
just charged for the electricity, you're also charged on the basis of your highest usage.
Well, I'm just going to mention that. Energy is how much juice you use.
Yeah.
Power is how big the wires are that feed you that juice.
Yes.
Okay? The bigger the wires have to be, the more they're going to charge.
Yeah.
Duh.
Well, one thing that I could say about this, Tom, is if you want to think about it this way, it's kind of like the difference between the amount of water you buy in the course of a month and the amount
and how big your pipes are.
And how big your pipes are. Yes,
exactly. Good analogy.
Yeah, and so if you have huge pipes at high pressure so you can get a lot of water all at once, that kind of thing would be charged extra. So,
well, this company called Firewire Technologies are doing it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
They integrate the battery storage into their plant.
Yeah.
And their whole unit has a battery in it.
Yeah.
And you can move it around with a forklift.
Which means that you can draw in power into this unit continuously at a lower
exactly
rate.
Exactly. That's the whole idea.
And that saves money.
And they don't add demand charges.
Yes. Okay, we should probably get on to our next one.
There's another one here. Let's
picture
get
of a Neo EV. I think it's Neo and not NIO, but I'm not sure. This is from Clean Technica.
Well, it is NIO, but I think it's probably pronounced Neo.
Yeah,
it's not NEO like new.
Yes.
It's NIO.
I think it's Neo.
Chinese car.
Yeah. What do you got for a title for the article?
Neo chooses Onsemi, which is a company, silicon carbide power modules.
And Onsemi insists on being in lowercase, which makes it kind of hard to read. A Phoenix-based maker of high-efficiency traction power modules, Onsemi, announced that it has signed a deal to sell its batteries to Neo, a Chinese EV manufacturer with plans to expand globally, including to the United States. The traction power modules increase efficiency in the EVs.
What's different here is Neo's offering what they call batteries as a service.
Yes.
You're always paying to have a fresh battery instead of paying to have a specific battery in your vehicle. You're basically leasing the battery.
Yeah. Yeah. Should we go on?
Well, being able to use a short-range battery around town
Yes.
and temporarily get a larger pack for road trips can make a limited battery supply serve more needs at lower prices.
Absolutely.
Which is what they're all about.
Yeah.
Well, let's get another picture coming up here.
We do. This is a picture of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. And
it sort of is, isn't it?
It sort of is. This is from Metro.
First look inside Chernobyl nuclear power plant trashed by the Russian troops. So you got the news last month that the Russians were in there.
Yeah.
And this is the first look after they left.
Photos.
And it's not good.
No, it's not good. Photos from the Chernobyl nuclear plant reveal reckless destruction left behind by Russians as they were forced out. Hallways overflowing with litter, broken windows, and taunting messages in graffiti on the walls were among the scenes left for Ukrainian defenders to find.
Well, the Russians didn't know what they were doing back there. A lot of the Russians stayed in trenches in the so-called Red Forest behind the plant, which is highly nuclear, highly radioactive.
Absolutely.
So these guys are short-lived.
Yeah, they were not given any kind of education behind what they were doing.
No, they just went in there and, oh boy,
made
this
a mess.
is great.
And by the way, the synopsis that I read, which makes it sound like the place was messy, I've read in other places a more graphic description of what it was and seen pictures. And to describe it using the way that I just did is to gloss over the difficulties. That was just
you mean
incredible.
messy is an understatement.
Messy is an understatement, yes. An understatement. It was, Let me put it this way. I think it was, they probably used hazmat suits to clean that up. Not because of radioactive stuff, just because
it
was that filthy.
Well, international experts say the site no longer poses a danger.
Well, isn't that a good thing?
Isn't that a good thing?
Okay, we're up to Friday, June 3rd.
All day.
We have
a picture of a guy standing next to a car.
Yeah, a guy standing next to a car. And this is one of the craziest stories I've ever read.
Well, the article says Chris Ramsey, that's him, will drive a Nissan EV on an epic adventure from the North Pole to the South Pole.
You heard that right. This is from Clean Technica. British adventurer Chris Ramsey will be the first person to drive an EV from the North Pole to the South Pole. I would bet you that he'd be the first person to have a car at the North Pole or the South Pole.
Probably true.
What a crazy idea. This is according to a press release that he
Well, the South
sent
Pole,
out.
I'm sure there's been vehicles there, but the North Pole, there isn't any land.
I doubt there's been any UVs. I mean, any SUVs.
No, not SUVs.
No.
Military vehicles and stuff.
Yeah, in fact, I doubt they were even cars. They were
military vehicles. The expedition is to raise awareness of climate crisis and also to address misinformation about EVs. How in the world is he going to get a car to the North Pole? And then By ship. and then he's got to cross from the ice at the North Pole to the North America somehow. And my guess is that he's going to drive a back road from down the pipeline from the north coast of Alaska, because I think that's the only road that goes there. I think you're right.
And then he's going to go down to what? Tierra del Fuego? I don't know. He's going to have to take a ship to. This is crazy. Ship to Antarctica. It's crazy.
Well, for what it's worth, Ramsey is an English actor, comedian, and TV personality.
Comedian. Okay. I knew there was something.
He will depart from the Arctic in March of 2023 and travel over 17,000 miles across 14 countries before crossing into Antarctica.
Well, I wish him luck.
His adventures will help debunk the fear, uncertainty, and doubt, which is called FUD.
FUD.
So that we so often see around the topics of EVs.
Yes.
He will endure the extreme polar climate, as well as every single climate change in between the poles. Okay, crazy. Traveling through both North and South America, he will face torrential rain, mud, soaring temperatures at the equator, and a high altitude of the Andes.
I think that is making the whole thing sound a lot easier than it will be, if he does it.
It's not going to be simple.
No, it's not going to be easy. We should go on.
Let's move along here. We got a nice picture of a train.
We have a picture of a train. This looks a little bit more likely than driving.
It's interesting. They call it a rendering of the train.
Well, that's the title of the picture.
Well, okay, because they don't have to show renders. These things are operating in Japan and in Europe.
Well, yes, but this is a rendering of the particular train that Siemens is planning on building. In Egypt, by the way.
Well, this looks just like trains that are running in Europe today.
Yes, it does, absolutely. This is from Clean Technica also.
Siemens Mobility, that's a company, finalizes a contract for a 2,000-kilometer high-speed rail system.
The 2,000 kilometers is about 1,200 miles.
I'm surprised I didn't look that up. I usually do.
Yeah,
I'll take your word for it. 1,200 miles, huh?
Yeah. Okay. Siemens Mobility and Consortium.
Oh, here it is, a 1,200-mile state-of-the-art. I did look it up.
Okay. Signed a contract with governmental authority under the jurisdiction of the Ministry of Transport of Egypt. The deal means Egypt will have the 6th largest high-speed rail system in the world.
Egypt really needs that.
Well, I don't know enough about Egypt to know, but
I don't think anybody knows much about Egypt.
Well, the Egyptians,
including the Egyptians.
Well, I think some Egyptians do.
Well, a 1,200-mile state-of-the-art high-speed rail network will connect 60 cities throughout the country.
I didn't know there were 60 cities.
I didn't either.
Okay.
Where did they hide them all? Trains that can operate at up to 140 miles an hour.
Some cities are small, Tom. And
Okay.
in fact, I am writing a series of short novels about people who live in a city called Gorse, which has a population of under 500.
Well, the Egyptians will shift to train transport with this fully electrified network.
Yeah.
And they're going to cut carbon emissions by 70%.
Wow.
Okay, so in addition, the network will cover travel time by up to 50%.
Well, that's
Well,
why
Egypt
they're
is coming
doing it.
into 20th century
Yes,
when
it
everybody
is.
else is in the 21st.
Some people, like the United States, are not in the 21st. But we should keep going here.
Well, this network is going to consist of 3 lines, okay?
Okay.
They call one the Suez Canal on rails, which is going to parallel the Suez Canal.
It's not very long. Why would they need high speed?
400 miles.
Is it really?
Yeah. It's connecting port cities on the Red Sea to the
Oh,
Mediterranean.
I see. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's paralleling the Suez Canal.
Okay. All right.
And, you know, the river in between and all of that.
Yes, of course.
Okay, the second line is about 700 miles. It's run between Cairo and the Sudan border.
Okay.
Okay, and a third line, it's a short one, will cover 140 miles, and it's going to connect archaeological sites that are of world heritage interest
Well, isn't that
to the
nice?
Red Sea.
To the Red Sea. Okay. Our next
There's another
item
one coming
is
up
from
here.
Clean Technica. We have a
got a
picture of a
picture.
Buick. That's
No,
not your
they don't make
granddad's
them
Buick.
anymore. That's a Wildcat. Oh, that says Wildcat, I think.
Wildcat. It's a Buick Wildcat. And as I said, this is from Clean Technica.
Buick resurrects the Electra brand for
Yeah.
future electric cars.
If there ever was a brand name in the from the past that cries out to be part of the electric car future, it is the Buick Electra, a name that replaced the others in the Buick lineup in 1959. Now, and of course it was not electric. Now Buick says it will sell only electric vehicles from 2030 onward, and
They'll all be called
they'll all be
electric.
called electrics. They are giving up gasoline-powered vehicles altogether.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, Electra is the name of a Greek goddess
The
who was the daughter of
Agamemnon.
Yeah,
See,
you
I
got
got it.
Now, this came from the website, and it's not about this car, it's about a concept car. An interesting feature incorporated in Buick's Wildcat concept car, this is bad, is a sensor that monitors the driver's heart rate. If it detects the onset of incipient road rage, it will tell the car to change the ambient lighting to more restful colors, activate the seat massager, and spritz a dollop of calming aromas into the passenger compartment.
Aromas. This is, okay, I think that would give me road rage. Okay, we're up to Saturday, June 4th.
All day.
And we have a picture of a solar
see
power
if I can
plant
find
in
that picture
India. There it is. India. And this is from Argus Media.
Well, look at that picture quickly,
Yes.
and you'll see what looks like hyphens, white hyphens. There's one of them on the left. There's 2 of them near the center of the picture.
Yep, a little
They're
above the
trailer trucks.
They're trailer trucks.
I increased the size of this to figure out what they are. They're trailer trucks, and it gives you some idea of how big that solar panel project
absolutely.
is.
And the plant, that's not the plant, what we're reading about here. That's just a picture that shows solar power in India. What do you have for a title for
India to replace 30 gigawatts is gigawatts, of thermal power with renewables. Well, look, moving in the right direction.
I was going to, thank you for saying that about gigawatts, because I was going to ask you what a gigawatt was. India aims to replace 30 gigawatts of Now, I should explain this to people. The old Vermont Yankee nuclear power plant was 0.64 gigawatts.
A half a gigawatt.
It was, when it was first built, it was a little over half a gigawatt. When it was closed down, it was a little bit bigger.
This is 60 times that.
Yeah. Thermal generating capacity, which
is mostly coal.
Mostly coal, and includes gas and nuclear, but they're not going to shut down nuclear for this, I don't think. With renewable power by 2026, that's not that
coming
far
right up.
away. in a move aimed at reducing emissions from coal-fired power plants. Delhi has directed 81 thermal power plants to reduce coal-fired generation and offset the decline with solar power.
Well, they're doing the right thing. I'd be surprised if they can do it.
It's going to be a big job, but you know.
This move is expected to cut coal usage for power generation by 35 million tons a year.
How big is 1 million tons?
It's bigger than this room, that's for sure.
I think it is.
Reduce carbon emissions by over 60 million tons
Man.
per year.
Yeah. Okay. We have a picture of clear-cut forest in Tasmania.
Well, let's get that picture up there.
And where
It could be a clear-cut forest anywhere.
Anywhere. It could be in West Virginia.
Could be in Vermont.
Could be in Vermont, except we don't permit much in the way of clear-cut forest.
They do it.
There's a
I've seen
limit.
it done in Wardsboro.
Yeah, there's a limit to the amount that you can clear-cut unless you have a permit from the state
Special
to do
permit.
it. You need a special permit. I think it's 30
Well, it
acres.
may have changed because it was quite a while ago, but
Yeah.
the Bills brothers were clear-cutting forests right and left.
Okay, this is from CNN, and what do you have for a title for this one?
More than 40% of Earth's land surface must be conserved to stop the biodiversity process.
Okay.
By the way, that's Tasmania for what it's worth. There's an island south of Melbourne, okay, about the size of northern New England, and it's a separate state.
It's a separate state, and it's rather cool and damp compared to the rest of Australia.
Well, in Australia, you move the further south you move, the cooler it gets.
The cooler it is. That's right.
Everything's upside down.
Well, this is the thing about Australia is that you just have to accept it. I don't think the people there have really figured that out yet. They don't notice it.
They walk on their hands.
Maybe, but I'll tell you what they do. When they see the sunrise in the east,
Yeah.
it's not to the left of them as they look toward the equator. It's to the right.
Because they're upside
Because
down.
they're upside down. Okay, 44% of the Earth land surface must be protected to stop biodiversity crisis, a report in the journal Science says. Some 64 million square kilometers, which is 24.7 million square miles, needs conservation attention to prevent major biodiversity losses.
Well, here's a quote. Unless humanity acts now, we will not have a livable planet. We know what to do. We have the tools to do it, but we still lack the leadership and cooperation.
Yeah.
So today, I appeal to leaders in all sectors, lead us out of this mess. And the author of that quote is the UN Secretary General, Antonio Guterres.
Remarkable
He knows
man,
what
I
he's
think.
doing.
But he knows what he's doing. Okay, should we move on, Tom?
He's got an important job. He's practically president of the world.
Yeah. But don't tell that to American conservatives. Just don't do it. Don't do it. Okay. We have
got
a
another
picture
coming up here.
This is inside a Ford plant, and this is the
Picture of an all-electric Ford Transit, as the picture shows.
yes. This is a commercial vehicle, a light commercial.
That's available
vehicle.
now.
It's available. This story is from Clean Technica.
Well, Ford adds 6,200 manufacturing jobs. The CEO sees EV price wars ahead.
Yeah, Ford Motor Company says it wants to be the Tesla of commercial EVs. To that end, it is building 4 new vehicle and battery manufacturing facilities in Tennessee and Kentucky. This week, it announced it will invest $3.7 billion to retool 3 of its factories in the Midwest. That's in addition to the ones in Kentucky.
Well,
and
it's
Tennessee.
interesting because they're building these factories in what they call right-to-work states,
Yes.
where unions are not very powerful. Okay, because in some states, you have to join a union to work.
Yes.
In some trades.
There's no state law that says that you have to do it, but the fact is that
It's
the unions,
reality.
it's reality. The unions have negotiated contracts under which a person has to become a union member to work at a job.
Well, they're talking about redesigning the body of an electric full-size pickup truck
Yeah.
for lower wind resistance. It can add 75 miles of range to the same size battery, or minimizing the size of the battery.
Yeah.
Okay? It erases the $25,000 difference between electric cars and conventional cars. That's what the article said. I didn't realize there was that much of a difference.
Okay, we are up to Sunday, June 5th. How about that?
Well, we got another picture coming up.
We
here,
do. This is a picture of the Bouquet Reservoir
which is in California.
as it was in 2008. Now, I got to tell
That's
you,
near Los Angeles.
the sad thing is you just have to use your imagination to see how dry that reservoir is today, because it is badly down from that point today.
It's down worse than that.
Much worse than
wow.
So,
As California's big cities fail to rein in their water use,
amazing.
rural communities are already tapped out.
Yeah. Governor Gavin Newsom has pleaded with urban residents and businesses to reduce their water consumption by 15%. But water usage in March was up by 19% in cities compared to what it was in March of 2020. In rural areas, some communities have no water.
The wells are going dry. For quite a while.
Yeah, for quite a while. The farms where there were orchards, the trees are all dead.
Well, what's going on here is due to overpumping by commercial agriculture and industry, dairy farms have been drilling deeper wells and pumping more water out of the ground. So the little guy, there's nothing left for him.
Yeah. How long can this go on? Well, it can't, honestly.
Well, water has already been considered a property, has always been considered a property right in California.
Right.
Okay? The property owner can pump as much water as they like. So, although California is in a water crisis, usage is still way up.
Yeah. The usage is up because it's hot and dry.
And dry.
So you need to use more water to irrigate.
Well, we got a picture of something coming up that's not hot and dry.
And this picture, by the way, is a picture of a bog in Scotland. And when I found it, I noticed that it was given a kind of an award from Wikimedia Commons, which is where it came from. Yeah, it's considered to be a really great picture.
Well, it looks like a peatland, that's for doing.
It sure does. This is from CGTN, and I think it's one of the most important articles of this week.
Well, restoring degraded peatlands to mitigate climate change.
Right. Peatlands play an important role in mitigating climate change. They store more carbon than all other vegetation types in the world combined.
Yep.
But in some places, peatlands are degrading and turning into carbon sources. Restoring them can help mitigate climate change. Now, this is mind-blowing. 3% of the land of the world is covered with peatlands. And those 3% store more than 50% of the carbon that is stored.
Wow.
You know, if you want to draw down carbon out of the atmosphere, you build these things. And they're not that hard to build. All you got to do is make yourself a lake and throw a bunch of sphagnum in it. And the sphagnum,
you got one.
Sphagnum is amazing. It used to be in the old days that if a person had a bad wound, you'd pack it with sphagnum, which is peat moss.
Yeah.
Because it has a natural antibiotic built into it.
Built right into it.
And the antibiotic that is in it kills everything that's below it in the lake. There's no fish under these things. There's no frogs. There's no slimy creatures down on the bottom. What is going on under these things is that the peat, as it dies on the bottom of these rafts of peat moss, falls to the bottom and it just stays there. And it decomposes slightly. And what does it turn into? Well, first it turns into peat, the kind of stuff that you would harvest to keep your fire going if you happen to be in some parts of the world.
Then it turns to carbon.
Then it turns to coal.
Yeah.
Well, you could make coal just as fast as you can imagine if you build these things enough, you know.
Well, these peatlands are carbon sinks.
Yeah.
They absorb more carbon from the atmosphere than they release.
Oh, yeah.
quite a bit.
If they're in good shape,
Yeah.
if they're in good health. So that is why I said I thought that was an important article.
Well, 3,800 megatons of carbon are released into the atmosphere each year due to peatland fires.
Yeah, it's not a good idea.
That's equivalent to 3% of the carbon emitted from fossil burning.
Yeah, that's sad. Okay, we have a picture
Yeah,
of
a nice
a
picture here.
wind farm, and you can
You
just
look carefully. They're there.
They're there. The
all
wind
over the
turbines
top of that mountain.
are on the top of that mountain. That wind farm, by the way, is in Greece.
That's what it says.
That's what it says. And this is from a publication called Foreign Policy.
Russia's war is the end of climate policy as we know it. Wow.
That sounds like doom and gloom, but in fact, it's not. The headlong rush across Western Europe to replace Russian oil, gas, and coal with alternative sources of these fuels has made a mockery of net zero emissions pledges made by major European economies just 3 months before the invasion of the UN at the UN Climate Summit in Glasgow. However, I want to point out they are not just replacing natural gas with natural gas. They're looking at replacing the use of natural gas with wind and solar. And so
Well, that's a step in the right direction.
it is. So that's why I said it's not entirely gloom and doom.
Well, from the article here, it says, a new era marked by geopolitically driven energy insecurity and resource competition is moving climate concerns down on the list of priorities.
Yeah.
That's not good news.
Well, it sounds like it's not good news.
In an integrated global economy free of major conflict, the world could run on Russian gas, Middle East oil, and Chinese solar panels.
Yes.
The world ended with the Russian invasion. This world ended with the Russian invasion of Ukraine.
Yeah, but one of the things this tells you is if you're dependent on fossil fuels that are being imported, or even fossil fuels that are being pumped out of your own ground,
Yeah.
you've got a level of insecurity there. The cost and the availability of sunshine is not going down. I mean, the cost is going down of solar panels, but the cost of sunshine is not changing. The availability is not going down.
They just haven't figured out how to charge for the sun yet.
Solar panels. Oh, you mean charge money?
Charge money for the
Yeah,
sun.
well, there have been places where people, organizations, governments have decided that they were going to charge for water and make it illegal to capture rainwater from your roof.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
Man.
That's ridiculous.
Well, that was because of the World Trade Organization.
Was it really?
Yeah.
I'll be darned.
Just shameful thing that they, and of course it went into the courts, and the court said, no, you cannot do that.
Well, let's move along here. We got a nice picture of Sydney Harbor coming
We
up.
do, and it's Monday, June 6th that we're getting these stories from now, and we're getting this story
By
from...
the way, usually when you see Sydney Harbor,
Yeah,
you see the opera,
Yeah,
which
you
is
do.
those white buildings in the center of the picture.
yeah,
But this is a much larger, grander view of Sydney.
it is indeed.
It's quite the metropolis, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. This is from ABC, which stands for Australian Broadcast Company.
Yes, it does. Why Canberrans' electric bills are falling while other Australians' power costs are soaring?
This is another article. Very, very, very important. Australia is facing an energy crisis. Wholesale power prices are currently at more than 5 times the price
That's
that they were
ridiculous.
at last year. Well, last year, they were at 2 times the price they were the year before.
Yeah.
So they've gone up. They've gone up to 1,000% of what they were only 2 years ago, sparking fears that some electricity retailers will collapse. Why? Because they're selling products at a regulated price, and the wholesale price is not regulated and has been multiplied by 10.
So they've been losing money.
Yeah, this reminds me of the old, the clever Yankee who has figured out that if you sell enough product, it doesn't matter that you may lose money on every one because you make it up on the volume.
Well, Canberra is, for what it's worth, the capital of Australia.
Right.
And they have an ACT, Australian Capital Territory,
The
which is
equivalent.
analogous to Washington, D.C.
Absolutely, yes. And what's happened here is that the federal government in Australia for 9 years tried to suppress renewable energy and back coal and gas.
I wonder why.
And yeah, well, they were getting their campaign funds from coal and gas.
There's a little bit of what would you say going on?
Corruption.
Corruption.
Just,
Yeah,
you know.
that's the best word for it.
But what happened was the Australian Capital Territory decided that it was going to go all renewable. So while the rest of Australia is in this place where people are just saying, we're going to be paying $800 a year more than we were for electricity. In the Australian Capital Territory, the price of power for electricity is going down 23%.
Okay.
And the reason is because they adopted renewable power. So if somebody tells you that renewable energy is too expensive, I think you can figure out pretty quickly that they happen to be wrong.
Well, it's interesting because the ACT is buying their power outside of the ACT.
Yeah, but what they've done
But
is
it's a very large solar.
Yeah, they have arranged through power purchase agreements.
They just bought the power. They have contracted
Contracts
for the
for 20 years in many cases.
20 years, I think, is exactly right.
Yes. Okay. Our next item is from Clean Technica, and we have a picture.
Got a picture of a car
of
here.
a VW Volkswagen ID Life. This is a concept car.
Which is a concept car. This car does not exist.
Yeah, that's right.
Yet.
And I'm not even sure that city exists, but nevertheless, somebody created that picture. Okay, what do you have for title?
Financial analysis. Faster electrification would boost car company stocks and profits.
Well, that's an interesting idea. Car makers stand to increase their market value and their profit margins by switching to EVs faster than they currently plan, according to a financial analysis of 6 car companies. It finds that they could add 800 billion euros. That's probably $900 billion, a little less, if they do the transition quickly.
Yeah.
And in the United States, we've got Ford. It's come out with this new, what's the Ford car that they came out with?
The Electra.
No, that's the Buick.
That's Buick.
Yeah.
Right.
Mustang. They've got that E-Mustang, and they've got the F-150 Lightning, which is
electric.
And we just talked about.
And they're sold out.
They're sold out for 2 years. And they're saying, wait a minute, what's happening? Because the car market has collapsed I shouldn't say collapsed, it's down badly. And they can't sell cars. People don't want them the way that they did 3 years ago. But they can't sell enough electric vehicles. And the same thing is happening in Europe. And, Mary Barra, who is the CEO of General Motors, which, by the way, is Buick is part of, she said, Buick is going to be by 2030. For General Motors as a whole, it's going to be 2035. 13 years from now, they're not going to be making any gasoline-powered vehicles.
Well, that's what the article says.
Yeah.
Phasing out combustion engine sales sooner is better for Europe's car industry and auto jobs. Okay? It runs counter to the industry narrative that Europe's drive to sell only zero-emissions cars in 2035 would hit profitability and cost jobs. So that's what they're saying, but apparently that's not what's happening.
They're just looking for sympathy from politicians.
Well, manufacturers face the prospect of dwindling profits on combustion engines as competition from cheaper battery electric vehicles and tighter regulations hit their sales.
Yep. Okay, we're going to have more about cars. This is an article from Clean Technica. This is a Kia EV6.
This thing wasn't scrolling. Here we go.
There you
Got a
go.
picture of a car here called a Kia EV6, which is made by Hyundai.
Yes.
The road to zero emissions now clear for road traffic.
This is from Clean Technica. The road to zero emissions from road traffic is becoming very clear now. That the solution is battery electric vehicles is now accepted Even at most legacy car makers, well, not all of them. Only Toyota and a few of its friends still believe in an important role for hydrogen in fuel cell technology.
Well, they're traveling on a different path.
They are.
I mean, and it all depends on what happens with hydrogen.
Yes.
Well, legacy OEMs must start making battery electric vehicles in time to survive before the steep part of the S-curve makes them obsolete.
Yes,
Okay?
well,
Only those that are putting everything they have into building battery electric vehicle production capacity will have a chance to survive and prosper.
yeah.
And they say this as an aside, the growing battery electric vehicle fleet will need millions of chargers per year in the next 30
There's
years.
so much money to be made in various parts of this whole thing. And there are people out there who understand that. And the people who were, I forget the name of the company that we were just talking about a few minutes ago. But FreeWire, is that the name of the company? You know, putting up chargers in rural
I think it was
places.
FreeWire,
Yeah.
yes, I think that was it.
They can see the money at this thing.
Well, every year, 3 to 5% of the fleet will be removed by a one-way journey to the scrapyard and replaced by battery electric vehicles.
But you know what? As the number of gasoline-powered cars in this country starts to decrease,
Yeah.
so will the number of gas stations.
Yes.
And that will mean that it will be more and more inconvenient to own a gasoline-powered car. And when people see that happening, they're going to abandon
give them incentive.
Absolutely. Okay, our next item is from Clean Technica. We have a picture of a wind turbine here. And
Is that what that is?
that is. And it's got a drawing around it showing the sweep of the wind turbine, and the dotted line on that is the sweep of the biggest wind turbines in existence
I'm
today.
glad you explained that.
Yeah.
Seriously. I mean,
Yeah. Thank you very much for being glad. Okay.
Siemens Gamesa, or Gamesa,
Yeah.
begins testing 115 meter long wind turbine blades.
That means the blade is longer than a football field, including the end zones.
Exactly.
By a
I was
fair
going to say
margin.
exactly that. Football field plus. That was my own notes.
Yep.
Siemens Gamesa. Well, I said that.
Yeah. Siemens Gamesa, or Siemens Gamesa, the
Gamesa.
Spanish
I heard him
German
say it.
Gamesa?
Gamesa, yeah.
Okay. Spanish-German wind energy giant is ready for testing its first B115 wind turbine blades in Denmark, measuring 115 meters long.
That's 350 feet.
350 feet. The blades will be used as part of the company's next generation of offshore wind turbines. They're starting to build 15 megawatt wind turbines. And
Oh, yeah.
a wind turbine of that size would power Brattleboro when it's running.
Oh, it certainly would. There's a good 4-minute video of an offshore turbine installation at sea. It's interesting. It's about 5 minutes.
Yep.
Worth looking at.
Yeah.
Well, the next generation wind turbine after this Siemens Gamesa has a total swept. Well, I'm trying to read my notes. This has a total swept area of 11 acres.
11 acres.
That's
that
what
means
the blades sweep.
the blades, the area that the blades cover is 11 acres
Yes, as they
rotate.
And this is all recyclable.
All right. We should get going on, Tom. Our next item
Well,
is from,
each turbine can generate up to 15 megawatts.
right.
So they're large generators.
These are big generators. Okay,
And we got a picture here coming up of Kentucky Fried Chicken.
yeah. And this is from the BBC.
KFC Australia forced to swap lettuce for cabbage. Huh?
Yeah. This is in Australia, by the way, not the United States. Fast food giant KFC has been forced to put cabbage in its burgers and wraps in Australia as the country is struggling with a shortage of lettuce. Heads of lettuce have cost over $10 Australian, which is $7.
$7 American.
A little over $7
For a head of
American.
lettuce.
For a head of lettuce.
I'd do without.
Yeah, well, if you were there, you'd have a choice. Either no cabbage in your KFC stuff or cabbage in your KFC stuff. Actually, they're not doing it no cabbage or cabbage.
It's a cabbage blend.
It's a cabbage blend with lettuce. Why don't they use watercress? That's good.
It would taste better.
3 times the usual price as a result of floods in Queensland and New South Wales. So their agricultural industry has been hit hard by floods.
But here's the real bad news out of that.
What?
McDonald's suffered a shortage of chips. Terrible, isn't it?
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Is chips, does that mean potato fries? Or
I think it means French fries.
French fries.
That's what I think it means.
I think it does. It's not potato chips.
Not potato chips,
the way
French fries.
I don't know what they call they call them crisps.
Do they?
Yeah.
Well, this is an Australian clip.
Yeah.
And this was written in Australia, so they're...
Yeah, which means it's almost a different planet.
Very much so.
I fell in love with Australia when years ago there was a TV show called A Town Like Alice, which came from the book. I've forgotten the name of the
Alice
author.
Springs is right in
Alice
the middle
Springs.
of Australia.
It was about a British woman. It's a wonderful, wonderful story.
Is it really?
Yeah. Okay, we are up to
We
an
got a
item
picture
in
of a guy
CNN.
here
We
we'll
have
all recognize.
all recognize this. Some of us don't like this guy. Some of us
Whether
do.
you like him or not, you still got to recognize him.
Yeah, and when I was a kid, we would have held him in deep respect and almost awe simply because of his position. But now we've got this fractious thing going on where people complain about presidents of the United States.
Well, the people that are doing the complaining are all Trumpers.
Yeah, and when Trump was in power, the people who were doing the complaining were all anti-Trumpers. Okay.
Well, that's Joe Biden speaking, in case somebody wanted to know.
Yeah, at a time when he was vice president, but it's a somewhat old picture. But okay, what do you got for a title?
Biden announces new executive actions to spur domestic solar and clean energy development. Well, that's good news.
Yeah, President Joe Biden authorized the DOE, that's Department of Energy, to use the Defense Production Act to speed up domestic manufacture of solar panel components, heat pumps, building insulation, electrical transformers, and equipment like electrolyzers and fuel cells.
That's interesting. Well, the White House announced it will leverage the power of the purse for clean energy, using federal procurement to increase U.S. solar manufacturing. His orders would reference climate change as a rationale to take executive action.
Right.
What we're seeing is a confluence of the impacts of climate change. The droughts out west, for example, reducing the output of hydropower resources. These things are connected.
Yeah, everything is connected.
It's crucial to deploy more clean energy like solar to make up for lost electricity generation due to the impacts of climate change.
Now, I want to point out, a drought doesn't mean just that you don't have hydropower. It means you don't have power from coal-burning power plants and nuclear power plants and gas-burning power plants. If
Because there isn't cooling water.
They need water for cooling. Yeah. And unless they've got a system where there's no need for water, which is really kind of expensive to build, they are not going to be able to produce electricity. So, this is something that even anti-renewable
this is serious stuff.
Yeah. We should probably continue. We've got a picture of a ridiculous car.
Well, it's not so ridiculous. I mean, when you consider that I don't know what most means, but most of the auto traffic in America has only one driver in the car.
Yeah, and
you're driving to work, it's just you.
Try this out for size.
Yeah.
This is an electric vehicle, and in China, you can buy it for $4,200.
Yes, the article says that. Less than $5,000 for that.
Yes.
This picture is an upgraded version of that.
This is the Air EV. And this
it's
is from
a
Clean
Wuling
Technica.
Air. Wuling is the name of the company.
And by the way, you go ahead. I'll get into it.
The Wuling Air is going global.
One of the first real mass market sub $5,000 cars, the Wuling Hongguang Mini EV.
Say that again.
I'm not going to try it. Has been a huge success in China. It has been the top-selling EV in China for a while, and in some months, it's actually the top-selling car. Now, an upmarket version of the Wuling EV, the Wuling Air, is set to go global. And I want to point out,
it's quite a bit upgraded, but it's still a damn cheap car.
Wuling is associated with, I've forgotten the name. It's
It's Chrysler.
Okay, and GM.
And GM, but I mean, this company we're talking about is Chrysler's.
But they've got this thing where they're all related and coming out with this car.
They've got a joint venture.
They've got a joint venture consortium, and this is American companies and Chinese companies working together, and this car is cheap, cheap, cheap.
Well, the Mini EV starts at $4,200, as you already said.
Yeah.
Very popular in Chinese cities, and is enabling people who would not have ever been able to afford a car to be in a position to buy one.
You know, it makes me think about when I was a kid. If you thought about a person living in China, you were thinking about a person with a hat that was shaped like a very low cone, standing ankle deep in water out in a rice paddy, because that's what all the Chinese did. You know.
So we said.
Yeah, so we said. And of course they had their
they look like everybody else.
They had their SKS carbines or their AK-47s or whatever it was going to be. And, you know, China was stuck in the past, and they're not in the past anymore.
Well, this Chrysler, GM, and Wuling partnership has developed several remixes of the smash hit Mini EV.
Yes.
Okay? They're planning to produce at least 1 million of these Mini EVs a year. And they've included in this remix many safety features.
That's nice.
Okay, they're good. They're safety features that aren't in our cars.
Absolutely. Okay, we've got an article from Clean Technica and a picture of Ford EVs. And you don't have to put it up because it's already there.
It's already up. Ford and Tesla indicate EVs may be selling themselves.
This is so funny. A piece in Bloomberg told us that Ford is looking to do what Tesla does, and that is not spend on advertising.
Well,
Why?
They don't seem to have to.
Yeah. Why? Because its EVs are already sold out for 2 years. Why do you want to advertise them? You can't even give them away because there aren't any. You have to deliver the ones you've already sold.
Well, as it says here, it wasn't long before every vehicle the money could make for 2 years was sold out completely.
This is in a market where car manufacturing has fallen off a cliff because people won't buy cars.
Well, the article says if advertising is out and only earned media, which they describe, and referrals are causing sales to happen, it's pretty clear that the vehicles themselves are doing the heavy lifting.
Yeah, and by the way, the big reason why people are not buying EVs is very largely because of a lack of availability of parts to make, and not EVs, regular cars. They lack parts to make them.
Engines.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll buy that. Yeah, because the companies that make the parts are slowing down.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, we got a nice picture coming up here. Another picture of a solar grid.
Of a solar array. And this...
solar array.
Yep.
That's the Redwood Coast Airport microgrid.
Right, and this is the actual...
Islandable.
This is the actual thing in the article.
The state's first 100% renewable multi-customer microgrid is now up and running in McKinleyville, California.
California's first 100% renewable energy front-of-the-meter multi-customer microgrid. Should I read that again just to prove I can do it? Is now fully operational, located in Humboldt County. Humboldt. The microgrid...
Pronounce that D.
Huh?
You got to pronounce that D.
Yeah, Humboldt. It's hard to do. The microgrid provides energy resilience for the regional airport and the U.S. Coast Guard Air Station. This is from Lost Coast Outpost.
Well, this grid features a 2.2 megawatt solar array that is coupled to a 2 megawatt storage system.
Yeah.
Comprised of 3 Tesla megapacks.
There you go.
Uh-huh. It generates renewable energy for all of California's north coast. Okay, they're putting out a lot of energy there.
Yeah.
This is interesting. When a power outage occurs, this microgrid islands from the main grid
Yes.
and energizes the circuit that encompasses the airport, a nearby Coast Guard station, and several laboring facilities.
Yeah.
They provide seamless ongoing electricity for all customers in the microgrid circuit during any local outages.
You know what this...
So if if you're in that circuit, you're guaranteed power all the time.
Yeah. Whether the sun is shining or not.
Absolutely.
And it reminds me a little bit of that story we talked about, I think 3 years ago, where there was a vineyard in California, and they had basically built the whole thing up so that a whole bunch of functions could happen automatically under computer control.
Yeah.
And they had built a solar system and battery and all of that stuff.
Nobody was even there.
Nobody was there because a fire was coming.
Yeah.
So they all evacuated. But because this thing was connected to satellite communications and had its own power, the vineyard was still functioning in many respects. And so what they did was they used their water distribution system to make sure that everything got irrigated and the grapevines didn't burn.
Amazing.
And of course, with the grapevines not burning, the buildings in the middle of the vineyard didn't burn either.
And they had plenty of wine to celebrate.
Absolutely. Okay, we're at the end of our...
1 minute left. So.
We are at the end of our show.
So let's put this up.
Let's put that up. We're wishing everybody to have an impressively easy week. And Tom, why don't you put us up so we can say
I can do that.
Yes, I think you can. There you go.
Adios, amigos.
Come back next time, you hear?
You'll come out to see us now.
Yeah, come on out to see us, you hear? Okay, I preempted you on that. You don't mind. Okay, bye-bye.